Welcome to the How to Find and Keep a Gay Man podcast. I'm Matt Bays, your host, with Matt Heinker, your co-host. And we're here to provide bitchy wisdom for the gay man looking for love. There are a lot of gay men out there looking for a meaningful love experience, and we are here to help. You can follow How to Find and Keep a Gay Man on Instagram and TikTok, where you'll find all sorts of bitchy wisdom about what it's going to take to find and keep a gay man. Welcome. We're glad you're here. I have a lot of gay shit to reveal.
Oh my. More than usual, huh?
Oh, honey. I don't go looking for the drama. It just finds me. People tell me things. I'm one of those people. Then tell me if you don't want me to use it on this podcast, because I will. Actually, you do that. You be telling stories on friends and family and
nothing to say. Don't come to me with that if you don't want me to chat about it. Hello. I'm going to keep your name out my mouth, but I'm going to tell the children about the story now.
Chris and I finally got our gay papers because we each ordered 2 Speedos from Andrew Christian.
And the angels sang, welcome.
Yes, they did. Listen, we decided to take a picture. Oh, we sent it to you and Ty.
Yeah, you guys look great.
Thank you. In the bathroom, because we were hiding. So we hid in the bathroom at the pool and took a picture because we were nervous. And now, 5 days later, I kind of feel like I could do this naked. I'm fine.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm saying, though?
She's come a long way. Yeah, you do get used to it. You're kind of like, well, okay, I serve this way now.
But listen, this is true story what Chris did. We parked our seats at the pool, and we were right by the swim lap lane, which you're not supposed to go in unless you're swimming laps. And I noticed he keeps getting out of the pool. He keeps swimming through the swim lane to the edge and then gets out and runs real quick to his chair, right? He's trying to create the shortest distance where he will be seen in this thing.
Yeah.
Erect. Well, standing up.
Okay.
Erect.
Come
erect.
on now,
standing.
Jesus. That's totally what we all thought when you said that. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Anyway, and I was like, are you actually getting out of the pool from the swim lane because it's a shorter distance, like by 7 steps? And he was like, yes, I just feel really like naked.
Exposed. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I get it. But now I just could care less. I've evolved in 48 hours.
Yeah. Well, you look really good in yours. I mean, I think that's an easy thing. So does he, though. The Andrew Christian ones, those ones are skimpy. There's not a lot of places for it to go.
Well, you've seen those machines that they have for like freezing stuff where you put the little vacuum sealer in there and vacuum seal it real good and tight. It sort of reminds you of that.
We're all on our journey. We were in Miami last weekend and we were serving the swimwear, as you can imagine.
I saw Ty's swimwear with a matching cap. He had a little jazz cap to go with his jazz panties.
He did. I mean, neon yellow and pink, that was not an easy feat to put those together. But when they did, he stopped traffic, I tell you what. And then, like, one of the days I was wearing shorts and I felt like I was a dad or something. I'm like, oh, this is so frumpy. I need to serve more than this.
Right.
Like a switch flips in your brain. Anyway, welcome to the club.
I think it does. And thank you. I do feel welcome to the club now. I feel like I am 100% fully gay through and through.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're talking about the aging queen.
Aging queen.
Yes. We're discussing all things aging queen because it is a problem in the gay community of worrying about this. From day one, when I came out, I was stunned by the fact that if you ask somebody how old they were in the gay community, because I didn't have a lot of gay connections, that people got offended. And then somebody straight up told me, never ask a lady her age. And I was like, but none of us are ladies here, so explain. Now I know different.
We're all ladies, honey. Yes.
Now I understand how all of this works. I've just never cared about that. And I was surprised that so many people were so sensitive about age when I had felt like I was in a heteronormative experience And a lot of people were, especially men, were just, they were fine with getting older because you're getting better and, more mature and more experience and more okay with yourself, more able to say fuck it to what other people think of you.
Well, in the hetero world, your stock is not directly tied just to how you look. It's tied to a lot of other things. And in our community, that's not the case. I mean,
Right.
how attractive you are is the first thing that you're judged on, regardless of age.
And why that is so interesting to me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that I really knew until I started researching and studying up on this. And I was like, oh shit. So I think we have some good information today
Mhm.
that clarifies how that happened. So let me say this. I put it out on Gay Men's Brotherhood on Facebook. I don't know if you saw that or not. The question out there about aging, that I'd love their thoughts. Like, what are you afraid of? What are gay men so afraid of with aging? Why do so many gay men think 30 or 40 is the death of us? Asking people to just share their honest fears with getting older regarding dating or finding a man and how you deal with that kind of pressure. But there was an interesting perspective of a guy who was talking about basically older men who prey on younger guys.
Mhm.
I think that goes both ways. I think there are plenty of younger guys who want somebody to take care of them and will also use their youth and beauty to get somebody to take
For
care of
sure.
them.
I think that, again, I think there's an exception to every rule. Like you said, as I've seen it out in the community, I see, to your point, people looking for a sugar daddy, someone that's going to take care of them. And I see
Mhm.
just as often older men who cannot. I think it's almost like you're making up for lost time, or we talk about this Peter Pan thing that a lot of us are stuck into. Like, you get older and you haven't matured or moved forward emotionally to where you
Yeah.
really want to connect authentically with someone. So it's still all about looks and sex for you. I think that most of the time it's evidence that someone has not done their work. It's evidence that someone has not matured and dealt
Yeah.
with their trauma. Is that
Yeah.
what the
And
consensus was on the responses that you got? Or?
well, people got sort of off the beaten path, and as people do,
Mm-hmm.
really made it very specific and very personal to where they were. But so some people actually talked about getting older and not having anybody to walk through that with, nobody to take
Yeah.
care of me, but it was, as I said at the beginning of this, it was one of the most surprising things to me when I came out in the gay community, was men my age who had not only not done their work, but their emotional intelligence, their emotional maturity was abysmal.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
were still, I mean, they seemed like mean girls, like they'd never
Exactly.
been past 14 or 15 years old. What I
Yeah.
didn't really know at the time, and what this research helped me with, is to understand where that comes from, and,
Sure.
and some reasons that is. So with that said, let's get into it.
Well, I would say, to start off the conversation again, Mr. Stat, the Washington Post reports that LGBTQ plus people are twice as likely as straight counterparts to be single and live alone into old age. Of course, 4 times less likely to have children, more likely to face poverty, poor physical and mental health, and many delay or avoid necessary medical care because we face discrimination or mistreatment by healthcare providers. If you're trans or a person of color, these disparities are heightened even further. So as we age, and if you don't mature enough to actually attach to someone, we're seeing huge percentages of our population in their old age alone, and without a lot of help, especially since most of us don't have children. That's something we have to look squarely at the face as we do or do not do our work. This is the inevitable future.
Yeah. There's something about that I find interesting. I like the idea of, I'm sure some people would be like, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not dating or getting into a relationship because I need somebody to lean on when I get old. But why not?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that can actually be part of it. And that can be a good, fair reason,
Yeah.
because we all need each other in some way. And
Yeah.
there are people who are alone and have no friends. Listen, if I was single and I was 75, I'm going to get me a couple girlfriends, maybe a guy friend, and we'll all be the Golden Girls together.
I'll tell you what, there are worse things. Having cheesecake in the kitchen at night. Yes. And you're eating dress.
Yes.
Sounds good.
At that point, we'll all be in our Eton dress.
I'm ready for it. Our community, I think, is to echo what you said, I could not believe. I mean, I always felt like I was a pretty attractive person, like we said, especially in hetero spaces. And then you get into gay spaces. And, I was 38 when I came out, and I was already, everywhere I went, I was referred to as a daddy at 38. That was shocking to me. I couldn't believe how much we highly prize sexual potency, perfect bodies, flawless looks, and just youth in general. And I think that really behind that is this idea that any sign of vulnerability or imperfection feel almost dangerous because we have to be perfect. We walk this world, face rejection, criticism, social challenges, minority stresses. So we reach for perfection. We reach for flawlessness in any way that we can, this hard veneer, to protect ourselves from the world. And it also extends to people within our community. We don't come and then take off the mask and love each other and lift up one another. In fact, it's taken to the next level when we're with our own.
Yeah.
And I think that's really unfortunate. And aging is a huge part of that.
Yeah. So I found this article by a guy named Silva Neves in Psychology Today. I'm going to read some of it. He says, many gay men will have endured homophobic bullying at school whilst teachers turned a blind eye, having parents not understanding or accepting their sexual orientation, or a difficult and painful coming out process. In the here and now, there is still much homophobia in our society, being looked at in an intimidating or shaming way when holding their same-sex partner's hand in the streets, hearing homophobic people making complaints when gay characters appear on television, being asked inappropriate sexual questions at a party that would never, ever be able to be asked to a heterosexual person. I had that experience a lot. People are like, are you a top or bottom? I'm like, none of your business. Okay. Having to carefully select a holiday destination that's gay-friendly, blah, blah, blah. This is what we call minority stress, the chronic stress that occurs every day for being gay in a heterosexual world. As a result, gay men and others in the LGBTQ communities have to develop a shield to protect themselves. That shield takes many forms. One way that gay men can create a sense of safety and protect themselves against more wounding is by feeling wanted and sexually desired, which comes with looking perfect, showing no signs of vulnerability, as you just said, and being young.
Young. Yes.
I thought that was fascinating because it wasn't just that we're vapid. It's
deeper than
more
that.
than that.
Yeah.
It's more that this is armoring up.
Yeah.
Okay. Loved that.
Go on.
Okay. For gay men, some reason 40 years of age seems to be the threshold when gay men flip from being desirable and sexy into being invisible and even sometimes an object of disgust.
How dare they?
I know, right? Watching the series, It's a Sin, reminded me that we didn't get the chance to see gay men aging when we were growing up because many of them died in their 20s during the AIDS pandemic.
Yes.
The gay male population is missing a generation of older men who could have been mentors and teachers offering guidance in this homophobic world. With the absence of the older wisdom in the gay community, youth became the only safety. As long as one is young and beautiful, they will be desired, and therefore they won't be alone. The gay scene responded to that by sexualizing youth and perfect bodies while denigrating aging.
Yeah. The dilemma is, we know from the feedback on this podcast, most men want more than that. They want to authentically connect. They want to fall in love, but they're having trouble connecting because the genuine intimacy that requires, the vulnerability that requires is not taught in our community. It's not mentored. And to your point, it's really kind of amazing to think of how many people older than us were missing because they died. And so we're out here flying blind with really bad habits. The other part of that I thought was interesting in the research that I did was virility in muscular, virile body and perfect skin and hair. It was prized for a very long time because it suggested you were healthy and didn't have AIDS. Those became cues that you are not only more desirable, but it was kind of this thing everyone reached for. I'm healthy.
Nothing's wrong with me. Well, and they
Yes.
talked about how they showed a lot of bodies of gay men during that time that were riddled with AIDS, and they were so skinny, all their muscles or bones exposed, that this became like sort of a reaction.
Yeah. And so now, because of all of this, we don't have a good model of what it looks like to successfully age in our community. Regardless of age, we see men just partying, having sex, hookup relationships, no meaningful connections. And I think it's because, again, we've talked about this so many times, but again, referencing back to this shame that we still carry and the trauma that we have still not dealt with.
Yeah.
You talk about people around me. If you're around me, I'm going to tell the story. This is a perfect example. There's a couple. Oh my gosh. So Ty and I were like the mayors at the drag show on Friday night. We love it. And there's this notorious couple, men in their late 50s, and they're attractive men. They keep themselves together, been together for decades, and they literally come to the club on Fridays and they look for some little pup in their 20s to drag home. Exactly. Everyone knows who they are. They know what they're doing. And you see examples of that everywhere. And that is the model that we have for aging. So you keep your body together and you still go after the young things, and it's a hookup and nothing more. Keep partying.
It's exploitive. It's exploitive. And you know what? I'll fucking say it, because here's what bothers me about it, Matt, is that there are so many in the community that I've heard say, these people are of age. They're 20 years old. They're 21 years old. They're 25 years old. They're of age. And I think you're counting on someone's age and making assumptions to your own benefit about what that is so that you can get what you want. And that is the definition of exploitive. Using somebody else for your own gain, regardless of where they might be emotionally.
Sure, absolutely.
I don't like it. It's gross. And the flip is also true, that if you are 21 and you are parading your shit around trying to get some old man to look at you and to exploit his money and get him to buy you gifts and take care of you, you also are exploitive and also gross. Grow up, everybody. Grow up. Well, what we're talking about at our core here is how to find and keep a gay man. And that is not how you do it. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't relationships out there where there's a big age gap where it's working for them. It may be.
Yeah.
But this is about singularly checking your own heart.
Absolutely.
And asking yourself some of the deeper questions. Is this not only what's best for me, is this what's best for them?
Yeah.
Yeah. We need those mentors.
We need those mentors. Absolutely.
And bitch, here we are.
Here we are, honey, trying to teach the children something. Love each other now. Lighthouse.com. First of all, I don't know if I've referenced this a lot in our podcast. I don't know if people know about this, but lighthouse.com is psychologically related content just for our community. It's really an amazing resource. So I'm just going to shout out to them right now. Yeah. And I don't know if you read this, but they wrote an article recently called Never Good Enough, The Perils of Perfection, that I thought was interesting. And before I even reference this, it really spoke to me because my whole life is ambition, perfection, performance to communicate worth. And even before I was in the gay community, that was something that I struggle with. And I think especially once you're in it, that's inevitably something we deal with. But it says ambition is healthy. However, if your will to succeed is powered by belief that you're not good enough and you're overcompensating for it, it could lead to a crash when life throws you too many curveballs, because perfection is either unattainable or unsustainable. The endless cycle of proving yourself leads to self-defeating behavior. Deep down, perfectionists are convinced that there's something fundamentally wrong with them, and no level of praise or success or acceptance is going to change that. You may accomplish a great deal, but rarely take pleasure in a sense of satisfaction and reward for the hard work, because often hiding underneath our mask of perfection in our community is someone who feels alone, helpless, and fears being discovered as an imposter and rejected. And so the desire to have higher income, more sexual conquest, better body, be more Insta famous, whatever, it can be viewed as the pot of the gold at the end of the rainbow here in our community. But the myth is that once we get any of that, that we're going to feel whole or at peace. But the reality is that once people gain access to the Flawless Club, they're sorely disappointed about how isolated and empty it feels. Not to mention how exhausting it is to keep up, as we age. And so if we assign too much value to that process, it leads to really bad things. And that is part of what we have to let go of and replace with a focus and a value on something else. Maybe age is a privilege. Age itself is a privilege. Wisdom is a privilege, and it's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Maturity is worth its weight in gold.
Yep.
It's creating a new narrative.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I, for one, have to be honest and say that over this last summer, as we've been going to the pool, there's a whole gay corner at the pool. There's always gay guys there.
Yeah.
And most of the gay guys that we've met are early 30s, and we're not. We're not. And I have found myself, I mean, these boys are all cool, and, their Instagrams are all cool, and, they're young and their bodies are gorgeous and blah, blah, blah. And I have had to go internal. I had to talk to my therapist about this, and I did, to remind myself of what it is that I'm about. And it can't have anything to do with my level of how attractive I am or how in shape that I've kept myself, or because all of that's fading. All of it is going to fade. And so I don't know, Matt, I felt the pressure, and I feel like I'm awake about this shit. And so I've had to stop and have moments where I think, Matt Bays, what are you about? What is it that you actually want? These boys are where they are, and they're fine. They're good people, but I'm not looking to go backward and try to extend my 30s into my 60s,
Yeah.
It's kind of desperate and sad and gets you so off track with what it is that you want in life. We have to let some of that go. As we said, and I really like the idea that there's not as many mentors out there showing us the way because of what happened in the 80s with the AIDS epidemic, that we have to maybe work harder at it,
and value different things. We were on this trip. So Ty and I spent 4 days in Miami last week, a little long weekend. It was just amazing. We got to rest and connect. And we met this lesbian couple at the resort we were at, which we just really connected with. Just they were a riot of fun. But we were talking with them about stuff along this line, basically. And one of them said, we have a saying that if you're kind, you're hot. So they're like, when we meet new women or friends, if they're really kind, we're like, she's so kind, that makes her hot. And I just thought that was really interesting. Like, they value who the person is. That is the most important thing. And I was like, I'm going to pluck that and use that. If they're kind, they're hot,
Yeah.
I think maybe we could learn from the lesbians. They value things a little bit differently than we do. But I thought that was really beautiful. It's time to value different things and look at people through a different lens. This scorecard that we're always holding, we have to just all burn them together, especially as we age, and reach for something deeper.
And Matt, I think we can all look at who doesn't want to go to the club and look good. If you're going to the club, you're going out, you want to look good, you want to look,
of course,
whatever. All great. It's when there are other people around you that are younger, their teeth are wider, their smile doesn't have as many wrinkles around it, whatever it might be, that doesn't make you feel less than.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. That you're more thinking, I mean, this is somebody I'd love to meet. I'd love to be able to inspire them some way. Please tell me that I have more to offer than whatever good looks are currently waning. I want to offer something helpful to this young gay that maybe he doesn't even know that he needs.
That maybe he doesn't even know that he needs. Yeah.
So this guy wrote an article. This article is on queer40.com. I've never looked at this website before. But the article is called, Does Getting Older as a Gay Man Have to Be Terrifying? His name's David, Toussant, Toussaint, maybe. And he told the story about this guy named Bob Bergeron. Have you heard of that name? Okay, so this guy wrote a book called The Right Side of 40, okay? He is a therapist to a shit ton of people, happy-go-lucky, fun-loving. Everybody loved this guy, very attractive. I have pictures of him. And the subtitle is The Complete Guide to Happiness for Gay Men at Midlife and Beyond. All right. The book's coming out. His life is just going so well. He lives in Chelsea, in Manhattan. He's well known, kind of got the world by the tail, 48, I think, or 49. And then Matt, he kills himself. just before the book comes out. The Right Side of 40, The Complete Guide to Happiness for Gay Men at Midlife and Beyond. This guy takes his own life. They find him in his apartment with a bag over his head, asphyxiation or whatever you call it. And everyone is shocked. Therapists and family members and really, really close friends are like, he was just so happy and you never would have known. And he has the title of the book laying out like on a sheet of paper near his suicide note with an arrow, and basically says, none of this is true. This is all based on faulty information. As in the guide to happiness for gay men at midlife and beyond.
Well, because he was like, keep it under 1,700 calories, go to yoga every day, lift. Like,
well, no, it wasn't that. It was what we're talking about.
Really?
That's to me, what makes it so interesting. And so the guy is saying, please don't get lost in thinking that this is what our experience has to be, because I'm 65 years old. I'm in the prime of my life. I'm having a blast, having good sex, enjoying life, lots of friends. Take the idea behind what he was writing and realize that while this guy was tragically broken and nobody knew it, the message that he had actually was good. But they did say that he never went real deep on it. He kind of was not about wrestling core wounds to the ground. He was more about like behavioral, like, here's how you fix it. But in one of his final blog entries, that guy, Bob Bergeron was his name, he wrote, I've got a concise picture of what being over 40 is about. And it's a great perspective filled with happiness, feeling sexy, possessing comfort, relating to other men, and taking good care of ourselves. So he was about digging deeper, but he
just didn't believe it.
He was trying to find it.
Yeah.
So he didn't believe it, but he was trying to fight it, wrote a book about it, was counseling other guys on it. I mean, these therapists were like, we were sending our gay guys to Bob because he was so good. And like I said, he's attained some success, has dreams of being on Oprah and taking this message worldwide, and then just kills himself because he's not enough.
It's terrible.
I know. That's a downer.
It is a downer.
Rescue us.
I think the reoccurring theme we see over and over again in all the topics we've discussed on this podcast is, if you have not wrestled with your core wounds in therapy, get a damn therapist and dealt with your trauma, you're not going to be good for much else after that. Finding and keeping a gay man, being mentally stable, enjoying your life, being at peace, all those things.
It would be real easy for you to swing the pendulum the other way, which I always think is a mistake when your change is based on reacting to something. So if there are people out there that aren't into the whole, I've got to look this good and be this perfect and have a perfect body, swing the pendulum the other way could be, fuck it. I don't care. I'm going to be fat and happy and I'm going to draw the shades and be alone.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like we can actually find some sort of balance where we still take care of ourselves. We still look good for ourselves if that's something that we want, but it's not the driving force behind us. We're not on these apps searching for validation from somebody young and beautiful.
Exactly. We work out from a place of self-care. We eat from a place of self-care. It's not from a place of, I have to look perfect so I feel good about myself. It's self-care, not seeking validation. And I think that's a really hard thing to balance or really achieve. But I think that's a really crucial part of that.
Yeah. And it's not that we have to put it to death. We have to learn how to manage it well. And those are two different things.
But again, and that comes back to prioritizing different things. The reality is that aging is a privilege. Look at how many people, we've said at the beginning of the podcast, how many millions of people did we lose in the AIDS epidemic that we don't have with us anymore? Many gay men didn't get to age and reach their full potential, do all of the things that they were destined to do in this world, live their dreams, find love. So let's celebrate aging. Let's embrace the wisdom and the knowledge that comes with it as we develop. Let's be grateful for that and understand that as we age, I think in a lot of ways we get so much better. I am a much better human than I was. Ty and I always joke. I'm always like, you're so lucky you get 42-year-old Matt, not 32-year-old Matt. He would not have dealt with this situation very well. There's so many things that get better as we age if we continue to do our work, and let's value those things.
you said some things we need to prioritize. Another thing I think that is important to prioritize is friendships, developing friendships that are rich, developing friendships that give back to me, developing friendships that are not based upon the things that we just said are wrong with our community.
Yes. And I think it's really interesting that you say that, because if you go to any gay bar anywhere in the United States, on the periphery of every room are much, much older gay men, usually by themselves, maybe in twos, but like kind of standing back, watching what's going on, the ones with white hair. And they are invisible to 90% of the people that are in that environment. And so when we see, an aging man in a gay bar, lighthouse.com was speaking about this, like our posture towards elderly in our community. It says, when we see an aging man in a gay bar, let's not look down on him or wish he could go away. Instead, we can embrace his presence, talk to him, be curious about him. The likelihood is that he would have lived a lot of life with a lot of experiences that might be interesting and useful for us to know. We come from a long way. The Rainbow family has a rich and vibrant history. We have many stories of survival, resilience, strength, love, joy, and beauty. What a shame to miss out on all those stories of our past from these people that have made it because they're not beautiful anymore. It's absurd when you think about it.
Yeah, it really is. So here's the hard part of that, Matt, is that we can talk about doing this and have the knowledge, but as with anything, if we have the knowledge, that doesn't mean this is going to happen. It actually takes action. Love is a verb, show me action kind of thing.
Yeah.
One thing that I love about the rooms of recovery is a lot of times when you get in there, one of the rules is, a lot of these people stay sick and they go from sick relationship to sick relationship, right?
Yeah.
So one of the rules when you get in there is, and it's a suggested rule, you don't have to do this, but it's highly suggested. And a lot of sponsors or the mentors in those rooms will tell you this. You do not get to have a boyfriend or girlfriend for 1 year.
Oh, wow.
Straight up. If you have one, that's different. But if they're like broken up and then they start talking 3 months in about dating, they're like, you're not allowed to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend because we're doing things different now, sweetheart. So we're going to take 1 full year to focus on you, to get to know you. And I wish when we talk about this stuff, I wish that some gay boys, young men, could push pause on their lives. So you've got some new knowledge and new information. Let's press pause with clubbing and hookup dating apps and all that just for 1 year, which seems like a long time, and invest all of that energy in getting to know you, in getting to know what it is that you want in life, what's important to you, so that you can actually not end up being verging on these older ages, 50, 60, 70, whatever, and literally still have the mind of a 20-year-old and not have these things that you developed in your 30s and in your 40s of here's what I really want at life. These are the goals that I'm shooting for. And you're getting those in your 40s and 50s and 60s, the way you and I are. I wish that there could be some more pausing, pushing pause and growing, getting in therapy and spending a year in therapy, knowing that you're not taking any gentleman callers during that time.
Yeah. I think the reality is that we're still not at a place where that is valued on any kind of a scale in our community.
Why? When I say it, I know that there are people that are like, that's bullshit. Sex is just animal. It's fine to just do it. But I'm asking you right now as a friend, because I believe this in my heart, that is confusing when you start doing all of that stuff. I've done it before. Hell, I'm 52 years old and I'm at the pool feeling pressed by 32-year-olds. What the fuck? That's where I talked about managing it. But why is it that somebody should maybe take some time off from all of that and just focus on themselves?
I think that you have to really understand, specifically with relationships, why am I attaching to this person? Are they a person of worth? Are they someone that I trust? Or is there a connection here that extends beyond what we look like to each other or what physical attraction is there. I think that is a barrier for a lot of people. There's so much wrapped up in the appearance and the physical or sexual chemistry, but what is beyond that? And I think on top of that, as we've talked about in previous podcasts, if you are not in a place where you love yourself and have a positive self-image, you know that you're a person of worth beyond what you look like, and you're clear on what you're looking for, then we see a lot of chaotic relationships in our community. And stopping and taking a year, or not even a year, just taking time to even go to therapy and unpack what all those things are, and maybe deal with trauma that's preventing you from attaching correctly or preventing you from looking at people that you are legitimate matches for you that you wouldn't see otherwise because you're not healthy enough to. Doing all those things requires you to do things that are not fun or easy. It's easy to go to the club and see a hot boy and hook up and rinse and repeat. That's easy. It's fun until it's not. But stopping that requires depriving yourself of something and doing something that's not easy, that's difficult. It's going to require you to take a step back and do something that's hard. It's not easy to go to therapy. It's difficult. You've got to dig through a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
And you've got to also, in that process, if you're going to grow, be able to see the things that are deeply flawed in how you live, how you think, maybe the trauma that you're still carrying. It's really hard work. Until you do that, you're not going to be able to attach properly. And it's not something, again, that's valued in our community. It's just not yet on a wide scale. I think over time, that's probably going to change, hopefully. But I think that's what we're dealing with.
I recently heard a podcast with a Gay Men's Brotherhood. I appreciate those podcasts where people are talking about real things, and like you said, it's not widespread yet that people care about this stuff. But I think it's podcasts like this, like that one, that are
Gay Men Going Deeper.
Yes.
And they're countercultural podcasts. It's hilarious. He's suggesting that we need to have a conversation that goes beyond surface. That people are like, "Oh, how interesting! This is fresh and new."
We're the first ones to be trying to quote Brene Brown.
Exactly.
Brene Brown would hand our asses to us. Do you know what I'm saying? We're like going to quote Brene Brown, and we're woke and read on all that. Daring greatly. But when push comes to shove, Matt, we don't want to do that work, or we won't let go of it. It's like trying to get candy out of a baby's hand.
That's a really good metaphor. It's exactly what it is. Yeah.
I don't want to give it up. I realize it's a problem, but I don't want to give it up. And it's like, well, if you always do what you always did, that you're always going to get what you always got.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it works.
That is the way that it works.
It's a change, honey. We got to change. We got to get with that therapist. We got to walk into the therapist's office, not waste our time or theirs, and say, I need change. And this is what I think might need to happen. Help me walk through this. What do I need to do? Wouldn't it be a beautiful thing if some beautiful boy approached some guy who's 35 and was wanting to hook up with them, and that 35-year-old looked at him and said, I'm not ready for this. You seem like a lovely person. You're obviously attractive, but I'm getting my life together and I'm not taking any gentlemen callers right now. I have to focus on this.
The record would stop.
I mean, that 20-year-old would be like, who is this person? Now I don't want to just hook up with you. I want you to be my husband. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got to value different things. Aging is a privilege. Some things get better with time, including us if we're doing our work.
Yeah. When somebody says they're 30, no offense to anybody listening, but I always think, woo, that was a tough decade for me, 30s. 40s was better. That's why when people were like, how old are you? I'm like, 52, bitch. I don't care. I've never cared. Like, I'm happy to be aging and to know what I know, because the older we get, the better it can get, unless we don't have anything to offer.
Unless there's nothing underneath the perfectly manicured surface. So let's do our work.
Yeah.
Reverend Silky, you got some prayer for us today.
Matt, you know that I do. This prayer time is called the Aging Queen. Remember the scene in Mommy Dearest when Joan Crawford is staring at herself in the mirror, examining her long legs and obsessing over her physical beauty that is oh so quickly fading? Her movie career is in trouble, and the fame she's known for decades is beginning to take a turn. Soon after that scene begins, we find a conflicted Joan in the arms of Uncle Ted. While the two of them canoodle, do you remember this?
Mm-hmm.
On a very dramatic white leather chaise lounge, little Christina, her daughter, interrupts to bring her mommy a fresh one, a drink. Cut to the next scene, and Mommy Dearest is hauling her little ass off to boarding school. Joan isn't alone. I'm vain as hell. And if our crazy over getting older isn't met with a big fat dose of acceptance, we'll never be free of our fear of aging. By now, we ought to know that there is more to life than being physically desirable. At 52, I've got wrinkles, I've lost hair, my skin is getting looser. The truth is, I'm getting older, but I'm determined to age gracefully. Do I want to look my best? Of course. But I don't want to hang on to something for longer than is reasonable, because this never makes for a happy ending. If you're a gay boy in your 20s, listen. Don't invest only in good skincare. Invest in becoming interesting. Travel, and I'm not talking about a gay cruise. Learn to appreciate art, and I'm not talking about decorating your place with naked statues of men. Also, why is this a thing? Invest in your heart and soul. Relationships that last are not based on beauty. We know this. So maybe it's time we start living this way, because we're not trying to be Joan Crawford, even though we can all agree her makeup, flawless. I think being old is a gift, and if wrinkles and spots are a part of that gift, sign me up. I'd rather be a blotchy old man with my beautifully wrinkled up husband at my side, happy, free, and whole, than an aging queen who never discovered her true inward beauty. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Hallelujah.
I'll tell you what, that was a good one. Referencing Mommy Dearest, that was just textbook, darling. Great job.
Another feather in my gay cap.
It really is.
Chris recently watched Mommy Dearest with me about maybe a month and a half ago, because he'd never seen it. And I was like, honey, the gays are all gasping when they find out.
Get to that.
Right. And he's like, oh, I'm super gay. And I'm like, well, you better prove it.
If there's ever an example of how desperately sad it looks to hold on to your looks and to really believe that that's the only thing you have as you age, it's that movie. That's not what we want. Thank you, Joan. Cautionary tale. Let's value other things.
Yes.
Let's age gracefully. And until next time, live in rivers of self-love.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's it for us today. For more bitchy wisdom, follow How to Find and Keep a Gay Man on Instagram and TikTok at, you guessed it, How to Find and Keep a Gay Man. And until we meet again, get a therapist, don't be an asshole, protect yourself, call your mom, and remember that you deserve a meaningful love. Bye.